Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to drive one of the most beautiful wagons ever built during the golden age of American automobiles? Today, I'm taking you on a visual journey straight to the heart of the 1950s, where classic design, gleaming chrome, and winged tails transformed ordinary family cars into rolling icons. Get ready to discover the most elegant, rare, and jaw-dropping American wagons ever manufactured. These weren't just cars, they were pieces of history, and today they're coveted treasures hunted down by collectors all over the world. And if you too are passionate about classic cars, about design that had soul, and about a time when every car told a story, this video was made just for you. Smash that like button now, because I know one won't be enough for all the incredible cars you're about to see. Subscribe and ring the bell if you want to keep traveling with me through the world of timeless automobiles that history simply couldn't forget. Now, buckle up, because this list is going to stir your nostalgia, spark your admiration, and probably make you wish your garage was a whole lot bigger. Let's roll. 1955 Chevrolet Nomad. Have you ever felt like a car could have a soul? The Nomad wasn't just a vehicle, it was a statement of style, a rolling work of art that defied everything people thought they knew about automotive design. In a decade where imagination knew no bounds, this model rose as a bold icon of elegance and visual rebellion. The first thing that grabs you is its silhouette, aggressive, fluid, unique. The raked-back roofline, wraparound windows, and chrome-trimmed body panels give the impression that the Nomad is in motion, even when it's parked. It was presented to the world as a station wagon, but in truth, it was something entirely new, a crossover between sportiness and family utility. Chevrolet, in a stroke of audacity, took the Bel Air, the brand superstar, and reimagined it as a wagon with a sporty heart and a sophisticated soul. The result? A car no one knew they needed, but everyone wanted. Under the hood, it came equipped with the now famous Turbo Fire 265 cubic inch V8 engine, a technological gem for its time. Its power and acceleration turned any ordinary drive into an exciting adventure, but what truly made the Nomad unforgettable wasn't just what it could do. It was how it did it, with style, with grace, with that unmistakable magnetism from the 1950s, when every car looked like it had been sculpted by artists, not just built by engineers. Did you know the inspiration for the Nomad came from a concept car showcased at the 1954 GM Motorama? It was part of the Dream Cars trio, alongside the Corvette Nomad and the Pontiac Bonneville Special. The public fell so in love with the Chevrolet version that the company decided to bring it into production. And so, the Nomad was born, a wagon that shattered conventions and became a rare jewel sought after by collectors to this day. Only around 8,386 units of the 1955 Nomad were ever produced, making it not only desirable for its design, but also for its exclusivity. It's no exaggeration to say that owning one today is like holding a time capsule in your garage, a wide-open window into the vibrant heartbeat of America's golden age of motoring. 1959, Pontiac Safari. They say the 1950s were the space age of automotive design, and no car captures that spirit better than the Pontiac Safari. This wasn't just a family vehicle. It was a ground-bound spaceship, wrapped in the dreams of a generation that looked to the skies and dared to imagine tomorrow. If the Chevrolet Nomad embodied sporty elegance, the Safari was pure unleashed futurism, a station wagon that looked like it was sculpted by NASA engineers instead of Detroit designers. Just one glance is all it takes to fall under its spell. The rear fins rise with stylized arrogance, almost like stabilizers ready for takeoff. The wide, low, stretched body seems to hover just above the pavement, and the dual headlights framed in radiant chrome look like they were built to light the way to the future. Every line on the Safari screams audacity, from the wraparound windshield to the twin chrome strips running down the sides like a bold designer's signature. But the Safari wasn't all visual spectacle. Under the hood, it could pack a V8 engine with up to 389 cubic inches, delivering well over 300 horsepower. And what made it even more special, it didn't just have brute power, it had grace. The Safari could roar like a lion or glide like silk across the pavement, It was the perfect balance of muscle and sophistication. Here's a fascinating and rarely mentioned detail. The 1959 Safari marked a turning point in Pontiac's brand identity. That year, the company moved away from the traditional Native American motifs, like the famous Chief Pontiac hood ornament, and embraced a cleaner, more modern, almost galactic design language. No car better embodied that shift than the Safari. Though it was technically built as a family wagon, the Pontiac Safari was anything but ordinary. It was the kind of car that made kids press their faces against the glass as it passed by, made heads turn in parking lots, and left neighbors wondering, what the heck is that thing? And the truth is, it was hard to define. A muscle car with room for six, a futuristic concept car that somehow made it to production, a beautiful anomaly born from a time when anything seemed possible. Maybe it was all of that and more. 1957 Buick Caballero. At a time when family cars were mostly practical and somewhat reserved, Buick threw the rulebook out the window, and what emerged was the Caballero, an exquisite rarity that looked like it came from a dream or maybe a time machine. Based on the Series 50 Super platform, this was no ordinary wagon. Its design was massive and muscular, yet refined down to the last detail. The side trim drew a rising arc that culminated in a powerful rear end, crowned with subtle fins and a wraparound rear window that looked straight off a concept car turntable. And then there's the chrome. Oh, the chrome! The front end sparkled like a jewel under the midday sun, the grille stretched wide with a steel grin, and the detailing along the hood, fenders, and doors made it feel like the car was dressed in a tuxedo for a futuristic ballroom. Everything about the Caballero was excess, but it was elegant excess. Think, a formal dinner in cowboy boots. This wasn't just a family car, it was sportier, bolder, rarer. Built for the kind of driver who didn't want another car, they wanted the car. Only a little over 14,000 units were produced in 1957, which makes it one of the most coveted wagons among collectors today. Under the hood, the Caballero housed Buick's powerful 364 cubic inch nailhead Vive 8, pumping out up to 300 horsepower. It came with power steering, power brakes, and a rear suspension supported by coil springs, top-tier tech for its time. But what truly seduces you is how every single inch of this machine feels sculpted for visual pleasure. And now, just between us, picture yourself stepping out of the house with your family in a ride like this. Summer breeze flowing through the frameless windows, sunlight dancing across the chrome-drenched hood, heads turning at every stoplight. Doesn't it feel like we lost something in the way cars are made today? So tell me, friend, if you could bring back just one family wagon from the 50s, would it be the Buick Caballero? Drop your answer in the comments. Would you cruise the streets in this stunning two-door beauty? Or do you feel the pull of another forgotten gem from that golden decade? Your reply might just inspire the next episode. 1958 Ford Country Squire. Some cars don't need to roar to be unforgettable. Some only need to roll slowly down a quiet street to carve themselves into memory. This is one of those cars, a living postcard of post-war suburban America. A perfect snapshot of family weekends, melting ice cream cones, and radios tuned to Elvis Presley. At first glance, the Country Squire looks like it drove straight out of a Technicolor film. Its long, sturdy body is adorned with iconic faux wood side panels, those classic touches that define the legendary Woody wagons. But here's the secret. That wood was actually vinyl sheeting carefully applied over steel. Why fake wood? Because it evoked tradition, warmth, sophistication. It was a visual way of saying, this isn't just a car, it's a lifestyle. The 1958 version brought with it a bold redesign. Ford went for a more modern aesthetic, leaving behind the roundness of earlier years in favor of sharper, more angular lines. Tail fins grew, the headlights doubled up, and the front grille stretched wide, almost to the edges of the car's massive frame. The Country Squire was no longer just a utility vehicle. It had become a rolling status symbol. Inside, it echoed that same vision of accessible luxury. Earth-toned upholstery, metallic accents, a sleek dashboard, and more than enough space for the whole family. It was the ideal car for the booming American middle class. the young families settling into newly built suburbs. But it wasn't all about comfort. Under the hood sat a 332 cubic inch V8, pumping out over 240 horsepower, more than enough to move this nearly 2-ton beast with surprising grace. Here's a little-known fact. Ford didn't just market this car as practical, they sold it as an experience. Period ads often showed the country Squire parked in front of white picket fence homes, with kids running around with puppies and smiling moms carrying grocery bags. It was, quite literally, the car of the American dream, and yet today we see it with different eyes. Not just as a family hauler, but as a symbol of a golden era, when cars weren't just tools, but extensions of the home. When hopping into the car didn't just mean going somewhere, it meant starting an adventure, even if it was just a drive to the neighborhood park. 1959 Chevrolet Kingswood, with extreme horizontal lines, colossal proportions, and a rear end that looked like it was ripped straight from a sci-fi movie, the Kingswood was one of the boldest and most polarizing wagons Chevrolet ever built. It was made for an America in transition. More speed, more space, more style, and a whole lot more chrome. The Kingswood stood at the top tier of Chevy's wagon lineup and was built on the same platform as the Impala, which already says a lot. That meant luxury, presence, and surprisingly smooth road manners for a car of its size. But its most famous and hotly debated feature, the batwing tail fins. Viewed from behind, those elongated tail lights paired with the wraparound rear windshield gave it a silhouette that looked like it had landed from the future. Some loved it, others thought it was over the top. Today, though, it's precisely that kind of audacity that makes it so desirable. Up front, a grille nearly as wide as the car itself commanded attention, flanked by dual stacked headlights on each side. The flat hood, straight edges, and intricate chrome trim formed an arrow pointing straight into the future. Every inch of the Kingswood screamed, "Look what we can do." Beneath that sculpted body, Chevrolet offered a range of V8 engines, with the standout being the 348 cubic inch big block, which in its hottest configuration delivered up to 315 horsepower. For a family wagon, that number bordered on the absurd, and yet it was exactly what many buyers were looking for: unapologetic power in a practical package. One fascinating technical detail was the rear suspension system, engineered to provide maximum comfort even when fully loaded, and that really mattered, because in certain configurations this wagon could seat up to 9 passengers thanks to a rear-facing third-row bench. It was the kind of car you could load up with the whole family, head out to the lake, and still have room left for a cooler, a barbecue, and a guitar. The Kingswood wasn't just a wagon. It was a rolling statement, a declaration that practicality and style could not only coexist, but thrive together. And more than 60 years later, it still turns heads, raises eyebrows, and earns respect. 1959, Oldsmobile Dynamic 88. In 1959, Oldsmobile wasn't interested in following trends. It wanted to create them. And this car was living proof that even utility vehicles could have a bold, head-turning personality. Part of the iconic 88 lineup, the Dynamic 88 wagon combined Oldsmobile's signature brute power with striking visual drama, turning what should have been a practical family hauler into something that felt more like a muscle car in disguise. Visually, the 88 wagon was all presence. With vertically stacked dual headlights, a wide grille flashing that unmistakable chrome grin, and a body that looked like it stretched to the horizon, this car was clearly influenced by America's mid-century obsession with speed, aviation, and outer space. The tail fins, though subtler than those on some of its contemporaries, blended seamlessly into the flowing rear lines, as if the car had been sculpted by the wind. It was long, low, and wide, a combination that made it look far more powerful than any wagon had a right to be. But under the hood, the Dynamic 88 backed up its looks with serious muscle. Powered by a 394 cubic inch rocket V8, it pushed out over 300 horsepower and delivered acceleration worthy of a true performance car. Mated to a Hydra-matic automatic transmission and supported by a strong rear suspension setup, this wagon offered a ride that was buttery smooth, even when fully loaded. One of its most interesting innovations was the use of specialized acoustic materials throughout the cabin, designed to reduce vibration and block out road noise. Oldsmobile advertised the experience as the quietest in its class, a bold claim for a family wagon, but one that held true. Inside, it was a celebration of comfort and elegance, padded fabric seats, brushed metal trim, and a dashboard that felt more like the cockpit of a space-age concept car, with deeply recessed circular gauges and futuristic lines. It also came in 2- or 3-row configurations, perfect for the booming suburban families of the 1950s. And the tailgate? Split design. Part dropped down, part swung to the side. A clever, practical touch that anyone who grew up with one of these remembers with fondness. 1953. Packard Henny Jr. While most American car makers in the early 50s were locked in a battle to build the fastest, most luxurious machines on the road, Packard took a radically different path. They dared to explore a less glamorous yet deeply essential corner of the market. That's how the Packard Henny Jr. was born, a compact ambulance and utility wagon hybrid, crafted with refined design, understated elegance, and a story as unusual as it is fascinating. The Henny Jr. was the result of a collaboration between Packard and the Henny Motor Company, a coach builder well known for producing professional vehicles like ambulances, hearses, and limousines. But this time, their goal was different: to create a smaller, more affordable, and more maneuverable medical vehicle designed specifically for rural hospitals and small-town communities. And that's exactly what they built, although what they ended up with was much more than just a small ambulance. Aesthetically, the Henny Jr. was a rolling paradox. It was more compact than the typical funeral cars of the era, yet it still carried that unmistakable Packard dignity and visual poise. The tall, squared-off front end, large round headlights, and stately grille gave it a quiet authority. The side profile was clean and balanced, and the slightly raised roof allowed for additional interior space without disrupting the overall harmony of the design. It was a professional vehicle that didn't sacrifice good taste. Inside, you wouldn't find luxury or flair, but what you did get was functionality executed with care. It had space for a stretcher, medical compartments, and integrated storage, all built into a simple but tidy interior. And under the hood was a reliable Packard straight 8 engine with enough torque to fulfill its mission without fail. It wasn't built for speed. It was built for purpose, and it delivered. Here's the twist that turns the Henny Jr. into a modern-day unicorn. Only around 500 units were ever produced. Why? The market wasn't ready. Many hospitals felt it was too small for professional use, and private buyers didn't quite understand what to do with it. So what was meant to be a quiet revolution instead became a very limited production run, one that's now extremely coveted by collectors of rare and unusual classics. The Henny Jr. might not have roared down highways or graced red carpets, but it stood for something else: practicality wrapped in elegance, innovation driven by real-world needs, and a reminder that automotive history wasn't built only by speed or chrome, but sometimes by quiet brilliance. 1955, Dodge Sierra. It's not often that a family car manages to capture the revolutionary spirit of an era, but the Dodge Sierra did exactly that. In a decade when American automotive design was shifting away from the conservative and toward the bold, this wagon didn't just follow the transformation, it led it. The Sierra was one of the first models to embrace Chrysler's groundbreaking forward-look design language, a stylistic philosophy that forever changed the silhouette of American cars. The forward look, conceived by legendary designer Virgil Exner, introduced lower, wider, and more visually dynamic lines. The Sierra was among the first wagons to embody this vision, and the result was striking: a family car that no longer looked like a box on wheels, but like a rolling object of desire. The body flowed effortlessly from the front grille to the rear tail fins. Yes, those signature fins were just starting to merge, hinting at the full-blown design explosion that would define the late 50s. In its custom trim, the Sierra stood at the top of Dodge's wagon lineup, and it showed. Chrome accents ran along the sides. The front grille was bold and intricately styled, and the body moldings traced every curve with surgical precision. This wasn't just a utility vehicle. It was sophisticated, modern, and ambitious. Mechanically, it offered a range of V8 engines that were beginning to take center stage in Dodge's lineup. The most powerful of these was the Red Ram Hemi 270 cubic inch V8, which delivered not just raw power, but also a surprisingly smooth and refined driving experience. One unique feature of the Sierra was its two-row seating configuration with a large cargo area in the back. But it wasn't just about space. The interior was warm and inviting, with bright upholstery colors and geometric patterns that echoed the mid-century design optimism. Nothing was accidental. Even the dashboard instruments used futuristic typography that made every trip feel like a miniature expedition into tomorrow. And yet, despite its innovation and beauty, the Sierra had a relatively limited production run. That makes it a highly sought-after piece today, especially for collectors who appreciate the moment when American car design transitioned from the understated early 50s to the bold and expressive styles that were about to explode. And there you have it, a lineup that doesn't just represent the best of 1950s American design, but reminds us of a time when even wagons, yes, wagons, were genuine works of art on wheels. Each one of these gems had its own personality, its own story, its own elegance, and a magnetism that simply isn't built anymore. Now it's your turn. Which of these wagons stole your heart? Would you go with the Nomad's elegance, the Safari's futurism, or the rare mystique of the Henny Jr.? Tell us in the comments. We genuinely want to hear from you. This channel is built on your memories, your stories, and your love for classic cars. What's next? If you thought the 50s were unforgettable, wait until you see the most beautiful wagons of the 1960s. Sharper designs, pure modernism, and a revolution on wheels. Click right here to continue the journey. I promise you won't want to miss it. See you there.